Okay, so I just wanted to quickly explain what I've done here before I do a little speed up video of sort of filling out this area. I have these gatherable placement nodes that have that gatherable ID on them. And inside of each one, I made a template as a placement object. It has no special properties, but it has a dummy inside of it, and it has the actual static template of the art. The reason I did this is so that I can quickly lay this out while seeing the art, and then when I'm done, go into this placement object and just delete this gatherable state out of it, and then the art will vanish and I'll be left with just the like ghost dummy objects. And I did the same thing with the pre-built placeables. So these corals are pre-built placeable objects like I showed you before. I've changed the name to just PB and then what they are, just because it was very long. They have a placeable ID on them and the producer ID that they spawn. And I've done the same thing inside of each of these, which these aren't even templates. They're just a thing that has these two IDs on it. And as long as it's inside of the replicated core objects, it'll spawn whatever you tell it here. But I've put this placement object inside that has a couple dummies in it, so these are the dummy objects, and then it has the actual art in it, and once I'm done placing all these, I'll just delete the art out of this template and they'll all update and we'll be left with just the dummy objects. So it took a little bit of setup, but I did it this way so that I can rapidly change and test this level, and it'll be easy for me to put the art back if I need to, or to take it away. You do not need to do this. I've built a lot of things like this now, and I know that I'll have to go back and touch them again and again, so it's best if I set them up in such a way that that's easy to do. So I just wanted to explain what I was doing here. Now I'm going to take these objects and I'm going to fill out this little space. The other small change I made was to the producer base node for these things. So just pick up one of these and take a look at it. This base piece here was just a cylinder. I've gotten rid of the cylinder and instead I put it on this thing that's like a upside down bell shape with the terrain material on it, and that was so that I could stick some of these to the cliff walls as well as having them on the ground, because if you have a 3D space like this, you should really, make use of the walls as well, not just only have stuff on the ground. So that was a small art change, but I think it'll make those placement nodes more useful. Okay, so that's all I wanted to show you. I am going to start filling out this environment, and eventually, hopefully, we'll be able to test it later tonight when I take all this temporary art out. Okay, so I did a bunch of placing of objects, and then I forced off all my temporary visuals in my placement objects, so they're still there, but the collision and visuals are forced off just so that I could do this little test. So right now I'm just in my main coral area, and we'll go into the house here, And I've thrown in this portal. It will obviously not look like this, but this leads to the first one of my personal refuge, coral refuge places that I get to try and heal the coral. While I'm in here, I should show, I got these armatures in, and if you plant coral on them, it grows all these different chairs, which you can then harvest and place in your house. And once they're placed like this, they won't die or anything. They're just furniture now. I already had that done last video, I just didn't show it. This is the area I built, but if you notice, everything died. That's because I had the timing set to 90 seconds for it to die, so that's not really going to work out for us testing it. So what I'm just going to do is hit F1 to erase our data. You saw it all come back to life there. I intend for there to be more coral than this per location, but this was just sort of to see what it feels like to be out and swimming around in it. I definitely think I can make quite small, tight little areas. Like, they don't have to be as spacious as this. You can see here that I've got coral growing off the walls on those little bases I made. So there was a couple realizations I had as I was working on this. One, this big coral guy needs to have special planting spots because the roots of that tree are really hard to hide. So any corals of that size are going to need to be on like a large coral base where I've placed it in such a way that the roots won't stick out. I think that's alright though. And the other one is just that if I want these placement nodes to look good in the environment, it means they kind of need to match the materials of the stuff around them. But that means when, say this was dead and the player had cleared away the dead one and then they go leave here and get a seed and they come back to plant it, they might actually have a bit of a hard time finding these, right? These spots. So that means that an empty producer base waiting for a seed when it's been cleared off in the wild needs some kind of effect or visual that you can see from a distance to let you know you should plant there. I'm not sure what I want that to be, if I want it to be like call-out sparkles or a special material overlay or some kind of like little floating element, you know, like UI element. I don't know, there's quite a few different ways that we could do that. So yeah, this looks okay otherwise though. I mean, I've got an interactive space that I can swim around and gather in. You know, I've got my regular gatherables and my coral working. I can go from here back to my house, so that's all good. So I think that means that the next thing I need to tackle is probably the buffs. I've not been looking forward to that. I think it's going to be pretty confusing because I'm leaning on those systems a lot for this game design, and I haven't really built something like this before, the buff system, so I think this is going to be a challenge, but that's alright. So before we move on to buffs, I wanted to show my solutions to the couple of the problems we just talked about. And I already recorded this video and then I somehow messed it up and lost it. So I'm sorry, I've already done the work, but I'll explain what I did since I lost the recording. I had a couple problems that I realized when we were just doing that play testing, right? One was that I needed a much bigger node to plant the tree coral on to hide its roots. And another one being that after a player harvests their coral, it would be hard for them to know which spots they should replant. We don't want our players to be frustrated, right? Like they're already going to be challenged enough balancing these little environments. We don't want them to be frustrated just figuring out where a valid planting location is. So to solve that, we're going to make use of something that we've included but not really talked about a ton in the farming framework called reactive components. You can find them by going to My Scripts and then looking for the folder called reactive components, and we have a bunch here, and you'll see that they have names like where they can toggle effects or change a color, toggle visibility, things like that, and they do it on different things. Some of them are looking for buffs, some of them are looking for something to happen on a crafting table, some of them are looking for something to happen with a producer. So you need to use ones appropriate to the thing that you're looking for. You do not need to know how to script to use these. I know it's always a little frightening to go digging for scripts, but what you need to do is make a client template. These have to be in a client template to work. So you see that I already had the static template, that's the art, and then I have this client template, that's the one that I just made. So in it, I have a pair of reactive components. They're actually the same, but I have different settings set on both of them, and I've added the words on and off to the ends myself, just so that I can tell what the scripts are set up to do. And we can investigate these. So this is the part, this in script-custom, you'll see a bunch of, in the custom properties panel, you'll see my choices that I have. So first of all, there's this field here that says object to toggle. That's the thing, because this is a toggle visibility client. So that's the thing that's going to turn on and off when this script runs. So in this case, it's just a reference to this folder that I've named planting indicator. And I can show you what that looks like. I'll turn it on right here. This is the thing that I have made to toggle on and off. So it's just a visual indicator that we can use to let the player know that they can plant there. So by default, it's going to be forced off because there will be a coral growing here by default in a pre-place node. Then this toggle visibility producer change thing is looking for change on collected or change on removed. So if either of those two things happens, if the player either collects a fully grown coral or removes a dead coral, then this script will run. The indicator's visibility will be toggled to on. If instead the player plants something here, then this one will run. So this one is set to hide on change rather than by default where it toggles visibility on. And it's set to change on placed. So when a producer is placed in this spot, then that will make this shut off again. So that's how this works. And I've set one up in both the new large coral node that I made as well as for this smaller one. So if we open this in here, you can see this one also has an indicator. A couple other things that we ran into in the video that I lost. One, I have discovered an issue where if you only have like a big piece of geometry in your producer base, sometimes you can't find it to plant again, like the tool can't seem to detect it. I'm not sure why that is. I've added it to our bug list to try and solve because you really should be able to use whatever size you want. But for now, if you just add a smaller object into sort of the area where you want the player to be able to interact, then it seems to fix the problem. So you'll see that I've just added a cube here. I just made it invisible, and so the system seems to find that fine. So it's just a workaround for that bug until we get it fixed. Okay, so I'll show you how these work. Let's go over to the Coral Town scene and hit play. So the other bug that we found is that one up at the top there. I think that's another Frameworks bug that we're going to have to find. So it shouldn't affect anything. This is still running for now, but it's on the list. We'll get it dealt with. Sorry to be showing you so many bugs. I'm probably the first person who's fairly far into a game with this framework, so I'm probably going to discover a few. It's just sort of the way of development. So you can see that I harvested that coral and it made this indicator appear, and now I can plant a new coral and it will grow back. So that's exactly what we want to happen. That's perfect. Likewise, you see this is the much bigger node. I gathered that, it worked fine. I can go here and I can plant it and it will grow back. So this is exactly what we want to have happening. So what I'm going to do now is fix some visual things like these portals looking funny and put out more corals so this feels more reef-like. Do a few other small like polish and fix art tasks. And then for the next video, we will do the thing and we will start tackling buffs. It's gonna be an adventure that we shall have together. So I'll see you in the next video.